Poppin' here. Coming to you with a week 5 battle of the LCD versus somebody. I don't know who. My opponent just announced he was dropping out of the league yesterday. So I don't know if this battle will even be happening, but if it is, here's the team I'll be bringing. I'm not going to rebuild it, and I don't think if someone does show up to take over the team, I think they have to use the same team. So this is the team I'm bringing. I'm not changing it. I don't know if I'll even get to use it, but here's what I'm bringing. So the team I'm facing off against is kind of, I don't know, it's kind of unorthodox. It doesn't have anything big and flashy that stands out, right? So the things that I think I'll be seeing are Thundurus, Metagross, Flygon, Primarina, and Heracross. And the reason, I'll kind of go over the reason for all these, right? So Thundurus, I could see it showing up with either Primordial Sea or Magic Guard. Primordial Sea works really, really well on the electric flying types. It gives you perfectly accurate Thunders, perfectly accurate Hurricanes. I don't know if this thing gets Hurricane. It probably does. And it's just a good fire check, or a fire type check, or whatever wants to run Desolate Land. It could also run Magic Guard. That's due to the fact that it gets Volt Switch. It gets really powerful Volt Switches, man. 145 attack is nothing to sneeze at. And being able to get in there, just pretend that the rocks aren't there, run a Life Orb to do tons of damage on the pivot. That could be really nice as well. So it's their highest tier Pokemon on the team, so I would imagine it shows up. Next is Metagross, who's a Steel. I think it's like the same tier or even lower than Snorlax, so super good, especially when you can choose the ability. I could see it showing up with either Flash Fire, Levitate, or Intrepid Sword. With Flash Fire or Levitate, it becomes a great defensive piece, which is useful because it's the only form of rocks that they have to set on their team. But if they want to do something crazy, they could do Intrepid Sword, or I guess technically Technician could work too, but Intrepid Sword's probably better overall to run with the Bullet Punch that Metagross has. I think it's stronger than Scizor, and Scizor's Bullet Punches have been tearing up tiers since fucking 2010. So you cannot ignore the strength of a powerful boosted Bullet Punch. Flygon I could see showing up with either Intrepid Sword, but personally my bet, if Flygon were to show up, it would probably be Regenerator. It's a great pivot. It's well, I guess it's not so good without Levitate, but it's a good pivot. It resists Stealth Rock. It has Defog, so it could be nice with the Regenerator to get in there, defog things away, and switch out. Has U-Turn, which is super useful against my team in particular because Hoopa has been such a big piece of my offensive presence. It dies to a single U-Turn. Pretty much, I ran the calcs for everything on this team that gets U-Turn, and it dies always to U-Turn. I think even if it's like max defense, but if you're running max defense Hoopa, what are you doing? You shouldn't be running Hoopa. So all the threats on his team are faster than Hoopa, and well, all the threats that have U-Turn are faster than Hoopa. Flygon even gets First Impression to outspeed a Scarf Hoopa, which is scary. So if Flygon were to show up, I think it would be an anti-Hoopa measure alongside Hazard Control. Primarina, it probably brings some ability with an electric immunity because I have 2 powerful electric types in Zeraora and Rotom Fan. It could show up, do some powerful special offensive things. As I learned from Season 2 of the VBL, Primarina it's a cannon, man. It does nothing but show up and just blast things away. It also has the Aqua Jet and the Flip Turn to be annoying and pivot around, but I think it would mainly show up as a kind of like gotcha kind of thing on my electric type, right? I go to Thunderbolt it or Plasma Fist and it eats it up, gets a boost, and then one hit KOs me in return. So if Primarina does show up, first order of business is to not attack it with an electric move. I think that's more likely than it being Sap Sipper against Zarude because it already has Fairy type moves. It can probably be invested to, well, I don't know if it could be invested to live as a Zarude hit, but I think it's more likely that he would bring it to try to deal with Zeraora because there are lots of other things on this team that can deal with Zarude. See the Hoopa discussion about U-Turn and how much it sucks to be weak to U-Turn. So I have 2 mons on my team that are 4 times weak to Bug, and U-Turn is very good against me because of that. Lastly, I could see Heracross coming with Intrepid Sword, Speed Boost, or even Prankster maybe if they wanted to go the Spikes route, but I think either the first 2 are probably more likely. Intrepid Sword because it's just a great thing to have on any physical attacker, especially one with Heracross with a pretty decent speed tier after it's kind of like Moxie Heracross with a Scarf, but you don't have to get that KO'd in the first place. You just start off and you're already at mid snowball pretty much. So I'd imagine it would show up with a Scarf and Intrepid Sword for Hoopa and Zarude, checking and countering and all that fun stuff. Also probably bring Rock Slides for, or Stone Edge for Moltres as well. As for the things I could possibly see coming against me, it'd be probably Rotom-Mow and Mega Sableye. Rotom-Mow would be good with a Regenerator or Magic Guard. It also has Defog, so it'd be good for Hazard Control. Good Swampert counter, assuming I don't run Sap Sipper, and a pretty decent Moltres check if you can dodge getting hit with a super powerful Weather Ball. But so maybe not a good Moltres check, but yeah, I think it's pretty decent. But honestly, I think Mega Sableye is more likely to come out of these two. It'd probably be coming with Dauntless Shield or Prankster, not Prankster. It's really bulky, and when you can come in and get a special defense boost, you can, or physical defense boost, you can dump all your EVs into special defense with pretty much no consequence and still be ridiculously tough to tank down and get through. And with Magic Guard or Magic Bounce, it's pretty good answer to Smeargle, assuming that I don't have Parting Shot, but I always have Parting Shot on Smeargle because I think that's the optimal way to run Smeargle. Yeah, and it's annoying Hazard Control. It has knockoff Will-O-Wisp Recover. It's just a pain in the ass. So overall, looking at the team, it's lacking Hazard Setters, and it's very Hoopa weak. I think they have a net Dark weakness or like a net neutrality. Let's see, Dark Resistor, Heracross, and Primarina. Yeah, so it's a net Dark neutrality, but unless you resist Dark, Hoopa is going to be doing some serious damage to you, as you can see from last week where it OHKO'd a Heatran from full health. Kind of going over some other stuff. Like I said earlier, Hazard Setters and Hazard Control in general are pretty lacking, with only Stealth Rocks and Spikes from 2 Mons. If you don't see one of them show up, you know you don't have to worry about it. Pivoting, it's pretty nice there. They have a good... Oh, Thunderstorm's U-turn too. Sick. Pretty good pivot options. No Cleric, which is nice, so I can toxic things to my heart's content. And a decent amount of priority, honestly. But, yeah, that's about it all from there. So, who am I going to be bringing? Haven't seen one of these screens in a while. It's nice to actually have a little bit of spare time this week to make one of these team builders again. It's kind of fun. So I'll be bringing Hoopa, Rotom Fan for the first time, Smeargle, Doublade, Swampert, and Moltres. I think probably Smeargle, Swampert are probably going to be my MVPs, bringing them every single week because they're so incredibly good. And this is also kind of the week of my low tier mons. Part of the reason why I was picking all these guys is just to show that the tiers can probably be rearranged for the better. Rotom Fan, in almost any ability, should not be a tier 5. Doublade should not be a tier 4. Swampert should not be a B tier. And I don't even know if I mentioned Smeargle. Smeargle should be at least tier 2 with Prankster and every move in the fucking game. It's awesome. It's so much fun. But for the meantime, I'll be taking advantage of them, and this team is kind of an example of that. So, running through the team, we have Hoopa leading off the squad. Choice Scarf, as always. Hoopa is unfortunately not that fast. If it was any faster, it'd probably be totally busted and be banned. We're running Psychic Surge again. That is to protect from the first impression of Flygon. With Psychic, Dark Pulse, Hidden Power, Ice, and Trick. With Psychic Surge and a Choice Scarf, it outspeeds everything on their team that does not have a Choice Scarf. I could feasibly see Flygon running a Choice Scarf. It's a pretty nice item on Flygon, and it would let it outspeed, get the OHKO with U-turn. So if I see a Flygon switch in, I'm switching out, switching to Moltres, pretty much always, or Swampert. Either of those are good pivots. But the reason why I'm bringing Hoopa this week, a special version, as much as I really like Hoopa as a physical attacker, I think I need the Psychic Surge just to double up on my protection if he's not Scarf Flygon. If he's not Scarf Flygon, he will have First Impression. It's pretty much that simple. So I have Dark Pulse here, which pretty much always OHKOs Metagross because you don't run a max specially defensive Metagross. It always kills a minimum bulk Flygon. It always kills a minimum bulk Rotom, which is probably not the case, but it does enough to where it'll always do a KO it. And it always OHKOs Thundurus if it's not invested in bulk, which is crazy. Hoopa is way, way, way too strong to be allowed in this format. There's a reason it was banned in Gen 7. So it's ridiculously powerful. I have Trick Scarf if I need to. Psychic and Dark Pulse take care of the rest. And HP Ice does a tad bit more damage to Flygon, but honestly, I'll just be hitting it with Psychic anyways. So I might switch that out. I don't really think there's a better option though, honestly. Moving on to Swampert, our pivot in chief, the MVP so far. with the standard set: Flip Turn, Earthquake, Stealth Rock, and Ice Punch. Maximum physically defensive because that's what he's great at. Even with no investment, Swampert's Ice Punch has a decent chance to OHKO a minimum defensive Flygon, and my Earthquake will always 2-hit KO a Metagross with max HP, no defense, and that's a more realistic Metagross spread, so I can see that happening. And the real joy of Swampert is all those defensive calcs. I can always live, so I don't know why it says 0% chance to 3-hit KO, but it's essentially a 4-hit KO from the Metagross Zen Headbutt, which is Metagross's best option against Swampert. I always, the close combat from Heracross, if it is Choice Band, always 2-hit KOs, assuming it's not adamant. So that could be something like where he runs Jolly to outspeed Hoopa, and he's Scarfed, and he has Intrepid Sword. That way I always take 2, it's always a 2-hit KO. So I can switch in, switch out, into my appropriate answer once I know what move he's locked into. It's the Hydro Pump. It's crazy. I actually live a max special attack specs Hydro Pump from Primarina, which is kind of saying a lot. And last, I always take a 3-hit KO from a what do you call him? Jolly? Yeah, Jolly is the one. Choice Band Flygon Earthquake. It's always a 3-hit KO, and as I said before, I have a pretty decent shot to OHKO with Ice Punch. I was considering running Ice Beam this week, but I ran the calcs and it does a little bit more against Flygon because Swampert's physical attack is just a little bit higher. Our good friend Moltres is back with a special defense slant to it this week. I have just enough speed to outspeed a plus speed Metagross because that would likely have Rock Slide. Weather Ball, I didn't calc it, but it would probably kill it in one hit. It's 100 base power, plus stab, plus weather, plus it's a Metagross, it's a steel type. It's gonna die unless it has Flash Fire, which would be pretty sick. So I know if he switches in Metagross, it's Flash Fire, and I get a lot of the gameplay in this format is being able to read what they're doing. So if they switch in something to you that you would think, oh, that's a bad switch, it's probably a good switch. They probably know what they're doing. And the important thing here is that I can live a Thunderous Therian Thunderbolt if it's modest with max investment. I live it 75% of the time, which is pretty good. And once I have that, I can switch out to Swampert because I'll be canceling the rain, so his Weather Ball won't be doing anything to me, and I'll just be in a good spot from there. Deblade, who is kind of grown on me to become another core part of the team. It is so bulky with the Violite. Its HP is shit, its special defense is shit, but its regular defense is astronomical within a Violite. So this is essentially the Heracross answer, and kind of just a blanket pivot, because with Regenerator, it takes care of Deblade's one problem which is its longevity. So I don't have any offensive calcs. I just have Shadow Claw and Sacred Sword because they have good neutral coverage against their team. And just to show how strong this thing is, this is before I put any defense into it. I think the extra 140 points I put allow it to live the I don't know what that allows me to live. I don't remember, but it allows me to live something. And the rest is in special defense for just a blanket kind of pivot thing. Lastly, well, actually, is it lastly? No, it's not lastly. Second to lastly, we have Smeargle with Spikes, Parting Shot, Court Change, and Destiny Bond. Good stuff. Smeargle's the best. And I have just enough, typically with the Prankster, I wouldn't care about its speed at all, but I have just enough speed to outspeed Metagross before it bullet punches me. So if I really need to sack, if my plan has gone horribly awry and I don't have anything to answer this Metagross that's going to bullet punch me to death, I can switch in Smeargle. Hopefully my sash will be intact, and if not, I can get it in after something else dies, or I get pivoted in from Swampert with Flip Turn. Oh, and also I have U-turn on Moltres this week because in the past I've always wanted it. I've always wanted to be able to pivot my Moltres out, but I haven't been able to. So now I'll be able to, because I never really end up using whatever coverage move I choose on Moltres anyways. I never use Solar Beam well, I never use Scorching Sand, so U-turn it is. So that'll help me facilitate Smeargle. I can always outspeed Metagross to get out the Destiny Bond right before it bullet punches me to death and kills itself. And Spikes because the team... I don't know, I think I said this before. I think Spikes are better in almost any ability. I think Toxic Spikes are better. I think Stealth Rocks are probably the worst in this format, because anything that'll be weak to Stealth Rock will be running some way to circumvent it. Boots or Magic Guard. So I think Spikes will be doing more damage to the things that actually matter. So that's why I have only Spikes. And last, we have a new pickup, Rotom Fan, Hurricane Tortilla. We have Volt Switch, Air Slash, Will-O-Wisp, and Paint Split. I think I probably dated myself with that Vine reference from high school. But Heavy Duty Boots and Volt Absorb. That is to be the Thunderous counter. I can switch in. I can absorb any electric stuff he wants to do. I always am 3-hit KO'd by a Timid Thunderous Weather Ball. If it does any more than that, I'm in trouble. Well, if it does any more than that, I can switch in Moltres and I'll be okay. Or Swampert, whatever. And I always am 2-hit KO'd by Heracross the Stone Edge if it's plus attack but not +1, which will allow me to kill it back in one hit with Air Slash. Will-O-Wisp and Paint Splitter here just to be annoying and for longevity reasons. I was thinking maybe about doing Defog over Will-O-Wisp. I might consider that. But yeah, so that is the team. I think it's pretty centered around Hoopa cleaning up in the end game and using these 3 as pivots. Actually, even these 4, honestly, as pivots to just get in Hoopa and deal damage over and over and over. And by forcing the switches with these 4, I can get spike damage racked up pretty quickly thanks to Smeargle. So, but you know what? All of this is even assuming that this game happens. There's probably a greater than 50% chance that this game does not happen, and I just get given a forfeit, which would suck because I want to play the freaking game, man. I'm in this league to play, not to win. Winning is just a side effect of playing. So that's the team. I may or may not see you in the team builder. Later.